Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the open meeting for Thursday, September 16th, 2021, and ask the Commission Secretary for information on today's agenda.
Each Commissioner has independently reviewed the minutes of the open meeting of Thursday, September 9th, 2021, and he does inform me there's no need to discuss those minutes.
Move we approve the minutes of Thursday, September 9th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Each Commissioner has independently reviewed the agenda, and each has informed me there's no need to discuss the notices associated with agenda items 2 through 9, the suggested minute associated with agenda item 10, revoking the order granting the stay, modifying the revocation order and granting a waiver to the extent one is needed, and requiring that ISM hold itself ready upon its system implementation in that census block, and imposing all of the conditions set forth in the agenda memo. Or the suggested minute associated with agenda item 12, approving the fiscal year 2022 USF budget as proposed, and approving assessment of up to the full USF budget appropriation amount.
Okay, for agenda, I'll move we approve the notices of investigation associated with agenda items 2 through 8.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. For agenda item 9, I move we approve the notice of proceeding.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda item 10, docket 11043 TI 102, I move that we revoke the Commission's March 25th, 2021 order granting a stay, and that we modify the February 1 final decision, which revoked without prejudice the designation as an eligible ETC, reinstate their status as an ETC, and grant a waiver to needed conditions as identified in the memo, and direct the issuance of a final decision reopening consistent with the memo.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Agenda item 11, docket 9705.G 2020. Move that. Oh, sorry.
12 we got.
12. Where did I put it? I put my stuff too quickly. Agenda item 12. Can we do all of them? Because that might be just to save time. Agenda item 12, 5 UF 2021. I move that we approve the proposed operating budget for the Universal Service Fund for fiscal year 2022 and approve staff's recommendation to allow for the full assessment of the Universal Fund budget appropriation amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now we go back to 11, which is packet 9705-FG-2020, which is Project Year 2020 State Energy Program Formula Grants. These are the Microgrid and Community Resilience Centers pilot grant program, and we established this earlier in the summer, in June, and this particular program focuses on innovative pre-disaster mitigation through critical infrastructure microgrids and other resilient building strategies by studying the feasibility of the deployment of distributed energy resources and appropriately sized storage, along with grid interactive controls. We received a number of applications. We actually received applications that are less than the amount that we had allocated, not by much, but by 22,305. And of the 16 applications that we received for funding, all of them were recommended for funding by the scoring panel. However, 2 of the filings contained late filings. The first was the Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corp. This application was submitted late. It was evaluated by the panel of evaluators, and they did give it a full merit review and found it to be worthy of funding. And then the second was a third-party letter of support that was filed late. We Energies filed a letter of support for Advocate Aurora Health proposal. So you guys know how I feel about these. I get crabby, and we have a lot of grant programs, and we make it really clear on our website what the deadlines are, and we have FAQs, and we have very sophisticated parties that apply for these grants. And in my mind, if we allow late files, if we allow late filing, it's that old adage where we're rewarding bad behavior. And that's not to say that the application itself wasn't meritorious, it was, but in my mind, deadlines are there for a reason, and again, they're sophisticated parties, you're applying for a grant, you know what the deadline is. So in terms of whether or not to accept those late filings, I was at Alt 2. I would not accept either the late application or the third-party letter of support. Commissioner Noack?
Yeah, in the past I've kind of gone up and down. It depends on the circumstance here. And as I weighed this one in my head, I look at it is a sophisticated entity on the late filing of the application, the one that was late application. There's nothing in the record for them to explain, apologize, etc. That I left wondering, was there a computer error on their end? Was there an illness? No mitigating circumstances were provided. So I had, whether it's 4 hours late or 4 days late, I don't know that didn't weigh in my calculation. I ended up where you were at too. I didn't see any mitigating reason. Sometimes when there is a compelling reason or harmless error, but there was nothing given here. So I agree with you on that, and on the late letter of support for the same reasons, but that didn't impact my evaluation of that particular application. So I will join you at that alternative.
Okay. Commissioner Huebner?
Yeah, as far as the letter of support, it was to me more of a letter of acknowledgement. I think that was part of the process. We wanted to make sure the utility was aware of the project, and there's, as we'll talk about, various degrees of engagement with some of the utilities on this. So I thought, that was sort of a no harm, no foul. And then as far as the application goes, I was going to allow it, so I would have been at subalternative C. On this one, they did apply on the same day, and they applied before 5 p.m. So I don't know internally if they had a thought that this was end of business as opposed to noon. I thought the application was worthy, and given the funding amount, and the fact that we were under budget already, they're requesting $47,000. I thought to myself, okay, is that worth $47,000 for this particular application that they're going to go after? And I thought it would be. So I was going to be at subalternative C and include it and fund it.
Okay. All right. So then the next decision that we have is whether and at what level to fund the applications that we received. The Commission memo does a really good job, and I want to thank staff again for the thorough analysis of the applications that we received. And the memo does a really good job of explaining what the evaluation methodology is, and then goes through each particular applicant. I was not intending to go through each one by one, unless either of you have comments that you'd like to make about any of the programs that kind of stuck out to you. But I thought that I thought that for the first time of us doing this, that the applications we received were good applications. And so I was prepared to fund them in the amount that they requested, but for the Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corporation. So, Commissioner Noack? Yeah,
and I don't need to go through them individually here at the table. I did read them, and they are good applications. I just have a general comment about a lot of them, because we're in the feasibility study stage here, so this is not an implementation thing. So I guess what I would like to see, when we brought up the scoping of this a few months ago, it was important to us that it was fuel agnostic, and the emphasis was on resiliency and its ability, because, as you read through these applications, it's a lot about providing that service in a time of crisis, or the critical, city services too. So I hope, a lot of the applications really emphasize, when you looked at the technologies considered, there was the strong emphasis on the renewables. And I understand that, and I understand everyone wants to meet certain goals, but, a lot of them also said they're prepared, they're ready for natural gas, whether it's, already in the system in there. So I really hope, and what I'm going to be looking for when we do, if any of these ultimately then reach the next step, right, of coming to us later, they're not required to for a grant, but I suspect that we'll see a natural progression of some of these out of a study, then apply for a grant for some implementation. The key is going to be, again, resiliency, duration of the ability to provide that critical service, not the type of fuel or if it's a battery, because I get it. Again, everyone's trying to meet these goals. This isn't about putting out a press release saying we're working our way towards reaching our city's goal of X. This is about providing critical service in a time of need. So I really want that, I hope that that's what the applicants here intend to do. That's all I wanted to say on these. But I believe that they should all be funded, and I agree with you on the alternative. Okay.
Yeah, I'm at the same spot, and just a couple comments. First, I thought the mix of applicants was outstanding. So on page 3, we've got to wrestle with this memo all week, but I know it was just released to the public here this morning. But just looking at page 3, I'll just read these summaries. So we had 4 nonprofits, 8 municipalities, 1 tribe, 2 utilities, and the UW system. And then as far as what they're going to do, we had 5 applications in activity 1, which is a level 1 or 2 microgrid, 3 in the level 3 microgrid, and then 8 in community resilience center. So I think as a package, it's going to be really interesting to see these feasibility studies, because in the past we've had different areas of interest and maybe not gotten very many in a certain area or not gotten from a certain type of entity. So I think we're going to have a great mix. So that was one of the highlights I wanted to raise, and I'm at the same spot. I was going to fund all of them. I think perfect. So thank you.
No, just a note, though I will note your dissent, because you would have funded number 16.
Exactly. Yeah.
One motion, that's fine.
Okay. And docket 9705 FG 2020, I move that we approve the applications consistent with our discussion today.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right, that moves us to agenda item 13, which is Northern States Power Company voluntary energy efficiency programs. And Commissioner Heaton, you are going to lead the discussions on these voluntary programs.
Exactly, yep. And I'll just tee up that we've got 5 here dockets in a row that we'll be taking up. All of them relate to utility voluntary energy efficiency programs. These are programs that utilities run in addition to focus on energy's funding. Just as a point for myself, last year I did write a concurrence related to this. We had a good discussion in the zero carbon docket and all agreed to continue looking at, in our quad plan, additional areas related to energy efficiency. And again, from my perspective, I think what we've got in front of us today, I'll certainly be acting on them individually, but as a general matter, we have a new potential study out for, it affects focus on energy, but it's a potential study of energy efficiency in Wisconsin. So it's beyond what focus can fund. And I just urge utilities to look at that, engage in that, identify where we can continue to find cost-effective efficiency and demand response as this utility transition continues. For this particular docket, up first is NSPW, Northern States Power. They've proposed to continue their residential and commercial community conservation programs. They also requested to add a pilot initiative focused on expanding their community conservation program efforts to target a tribal community in its service territory through a collaborative initiative with focus. High-level stuff, the residential program would provide bonus incentives for NSPW customers participating in Focus's Home Performance with Energy Star program. NSPW proposes increasing the bonus incentive from 60% up to 75%, noting that their evaluation has shown that in the past, the higher incentive level did get more participation, so they want to go back to that. The commercial program would offer bonus incentives in the Focus Business and Industry Solutions equal to 50% of the Focus, capped at $4,000 per customer. The first decision that we have is on page 8 of this memo, and it relates to the tribal pilot and the level of coordination between Focus on Energy and this pilot, and I was at alternative 1. I would like to see NSPW report to the commission, work with commission staff by December 1st of this year on its plans to coordinate with Focus staff on the tribal pilot. I think having it on paper and going through the effort of planning will be beneficial. So I was at alternative 1.
Okay. Thanks. I was actually at alt 2. I think as the memo points out that NSP has really demonstrated a collaborative approach to this particular program between them, Focus, and the targeted tribal community. So I was confident that they're going to continue that collaboration, and I didn't necessarily think that it was necessary to require them to report back to us. So I was at alt 2 on this one.
Commissioner Noyes?
Yeah, because they're going to do it within the existing budget that they have. So, and when I first read this, I was like, that's good. Shouldn't they already be doing it? And why do they have to then tell us they're going to go talk? Like, okay, thanks for letting us know. Yeah. You should reach out to underserved areas. So I can join you at alternative 2 because what are we going to do with it? Now, if they come back and ask for separate funding, they better have some more meat. I assume they're going to do this anyway if they want to segregate, but to me, this is just something included in their residential program and absorbed within it. So I didn't understand why it had to be separately called out.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll stay at alt 1 on that.
Okay.
The next decision item is related to their performance goals, and it's on page 15 of the memo. This came up last year, and we've seen it in the Focus program more broadly as well. The avoided costs, which is essentially the cost of energy in the MISO market, has gone down over the years, and most recently, the adjustment last year was about a 30% decline. And we've seen that impact in the cost effectiveness on the Focus on Energy side, as well as in the programs that NSPW has run voluntarily. So what they've essentially asked to do is recalculate their cost effectiveness goal using that new avoided cost, or understanding that avoided cost has gone down, and therefore it's going to be harder to reach the hurdle historically of 3.0 of utility administrator tests that they've used. So last year was fine with that. And so I am, again, I think updating it for the data, the reality on the ground now makes sense. So I was at alternative 1.
Okay. So this one I have pretty strong feelings about, and I think we probably talked about this the last time it came up. Yes, avoided costs have declined, and I think that it's extremely appropriate to use that metric, right? I mean, that's the appropriate metric to use. But I also think that we can't lower expectations. So if the state of the world that we're in is showing that avoided costs are going down because of a change in resource mix and everything else that goes into that calculation of the avoided costs, then I think it's incumbent upon the utilities who are using customer dollars to do this to potentially go back and rejigger their program to reflect the avoided costs, right? So I'm not a fan of bringing the field goal closer to the kicker. I think it is where it is, and if that means that they have to make adjustments, then they should be making adjustments. And I think we're going to see this. I think we're going to see this as the resource mix changes, as consumer behavior changes, and as we figure out ways to actually manage demand and respond to demand. But I don't think that it's appropriate to lower expectations or to adjust that performance goal. So I was at alternative 2.
Yeah, this is, deja vu from a year ago. Tara and I are going to be in the same spot again on this because I agree. Although the costs are, the avoided costs are getting lower to factors outside of the utility's control, that is what it is. So they've got to adapt, not the not the goal. Or if we are going to adapt, change the goal, I think we need to look at it in a holistic manner when we take up the entire program next year in quad planning. Because at some point, if the avoided cost is going to keep going down, which is a huge factor in that cost-benefit analysis, we're going to have to ask the question, at what point is it just better to let the ratepayers keep their own dollars? Like, we're making a lot of motion to get a little bang out of it. So I think it's important to keep that metric out there so we can understand that and maybe make some modifications in the future. So I join the chair.
Just to respond to your broader statement, I know we'll get an update from the potential study here in a couple weeks, and my understanding is that it shows continued, lots of cost-effective energy efficiency to be obtained. So I'll push back on that because I think there's a lot. And I guess just to put this into round numbers, to me it's like, the presidential fitness test. You want the kid to do 30 push-ups. They can only do 16. And so are you going to keep setting the goal at 30, something that they just can't obtain, or are you going to sort of set the goal to something they can and encourage that? So that's why I thought it made sense. It's beyond their control. And with that said, I know natural gas prices are up this year. And, we'll see what that does going forward.
Yeah, and I think speaking for myself, there's no doubt that energy efficiency remains cost effective and that it's got to be one of the tools that we use. But I would say that rather than doing the push-ups, then you switch to the folded arm hang.
Yeah.
As the more appropriate part of the presidential fitness test, right? I mean, yeah. So I don't disagree with you that there are a number of really cost-effective energy efficiency measures, and I'm a big believer in energy efficiency helping to get us to where we're going in the transition. But I just don't think it's appropriate in this case to update the goal.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm not going to give a reference to, except that I excelled in that arm hang because I was always so skinny.
The shuttle run.
People hated me.
The shuttle run was my favorite. Yeah.
But I'm going to.
Okay, so then we're on to page 16 of this memo. We've got a number of consecutive decisions. The final detailed one, though, is related to EM&B plans. And this is something that we've done historically. They've been very good about it, but essentially locking in that we are asking them for an evaluation plan by December 1st of this year for their program. So I was at alternative 1 to continue that.
Yeah, I was there as well.
Yep.
The continuation. Yep.
Me too.
Okay, so then we go in order here related to approving the residential program, the commercial program, and the tribal pilot. And in all cases, I'm at alternative 2. My understanding of alternative 2 is that it modifies to include the evaluation plan, as we just discussed, and then in the tribal to include the coordination plan. So maybe you guys are at alternative 1 on the tribal then. So either way, I'm approving the programs as is with the evaluation plan. I would have improved the coordination, but with that, I think can go to you, Chair.
Yep, I was a little, I wasn't sure which was the appropriate alternative to take when we added the evaluation plan for EM and B. So I guess the easiest way to say it is I would approve the program, I would not adjust the performance goal, and I would include that evaluation plan.
Yeah, I think we've kind of already made these motions.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I don't know if we have.
Yep. This is just an opportunity. If there's any other tweaks I think we wanted to make to the programs, if you have any other modifications. I don't.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Cindy, do you have?
No, I'm clear.
What you need?
Yeah, look at that. The presidential fitness test.
Yeah, the separate percents will be noted and the approvals be consistent with your discussion.
Okay. In docket 4220EE 2022, I move that we approve as modified the request to implement the 2022 Voluntary Energy Efficiency Program filed on behalf of Northern State Power Company, Wisconsin.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, agenda item 14 is 5EE 2022, and this is Wisconsin Electric Power Company and Wisconsin Gas. to continue operating their residential assistance program as a voluntary program for 2022 and 2023. The residential assistance program provides weatherization services for low-income customers in the We Energies territory. RAP customers are referred to local contractors affiliated with the Focus Residential Trade Ally Solution. Weatherization measures under RAP include Tier 2 heating and cooling equipment incentives, attic and wall insulation, air sealing, replacement of furnaces, boilers, and water heaters, as well as some other efficiency and comfort and safety items. They are also proposing it as a pilot to expand the customer eligibility related to the same program. So the program would do the same things, but in additional houses that they aren't currently in, or additional units. And this is on page 3. So first would be owner-occupied units with 4 or more, owner-occupied buildings, I should say, with 4 or more units. Non-owner occupied, so this would be, entirely tenants in 2 to 4 units, multifamily units, and then nonprofit organizations. I think that the decision items are all at the back of this one. And I'm ready to move ahead on page 10. This is again related to evaluation. And I would be at alternative 2. I would ask them to complete a process evaluation of the pilot aspects that they are proposed to include for 2022 and 2023, and to file that by June 1st of 2024 makes sense to me. So I was at alternative 2. Chair?
Thanks, Commissioner Huebner. I was at the exact same place. I will also say that I was heartened to see that they are planning to expand eligibility and get to the part of accessibility to the energy efficiency programs. And clearly there's a desire for energy efficiency by non-owners, and I think that this is a step in the right direction to bring these types of programs to non-homeowners. Because because you're a renter or because you live in a multifamily unit doesn't mean that you're not interested in trying to achieve energy efficiency. So I was actually pleased to see this proposed expansion, and I was also at alt 2.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how it does play out with, the coordination with the landlords and the renters. So I think an evaluation of what they've done and how it's working, if it should continue. It just gets tricky when, it's they do offer to some non-owner occupied and others. So glad to see they're trying it, but, we're definitely going to need to see data if it needs to be continued. So I'm joining that alternative 2.
Great. And then on page 11, we have the alternatives related to first approving or not the base program, the residential assistance program, and then secondly, to formally approve these pilot aspects. I support the program and at alternative 1 for the residential assistance program. As you said, Chair, it's energy efficiency. It's coordinated between Focus and our low-income weatherization program and the community action agencies and nonprofits that run that. Sometimes there's holes, and these utility programs can fill the holes. My understanding from the pilot is that's exactly why they're proposing this, is they're seeing certain units that can't be covered by either Focus or We Energies current program or low-income weatherization. So there's a market of really hard to reach customers that they want to try to reach. And so I was at alternative 1, approving the program, and then for the pilot, I was at alternative 2. Again, my understanding of that would be the inclusive of the process evaluation that we just supported. So no other modifications besides that. So that's where I'm at.
And I was at the exact same place. So alt 1 and alt 2.
Yep, same spot.
Okay.
So in docket 5 EE 2022, I move that we approve the 2022 voluntary program proposal submitted on behalf of Wisconsin Electric Power Company and Wisconsin Gas LLC, consistent with our discussion today.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to item 15 is 5 EE 2023. It's the same utilities, Wisconsin Electric Power and Wisconsin Gas, and this is for their voluntary design assistance program This one looks ahead because it's related to new construction. So this is actually funding for 2023 and 2024 because the nature of this program is working with customers in the design phase of new buildings so that they can incorporate energy efficiency right from the start. This program has been very successful within Focus on Energy, and there has been in the past more demand in this utilities territory than what Focus alone can provide. They have a budget of up to $650,000. They have not met that historically, but they do continue to see project lead times and projects out in the future. Obviously, with COVID, there was some uncertainty around building new buildings in the last year and a half as well. They did spend about $198,000 in 2020's program. As I mentioned, this has been very cost effective. The Focus program has been found to see a $2.62 benefit for every dollar invested. And so I didn't have any modifications on this one, and I was at alternative one to continue this program at the budget level proposed for 2023 and 2024. Chair?
I was as well, and I think as it was pointed out in the memo, it's important for budgetary or planning purposes to have certainty. As you indicated, this is going out, this is looking out, and it takes a lot of planning. So I was comfortable with accepting their proposal as is also.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
Yep. Accepted. Docket 5EE 2023, I move that we approve the request to implement the 2023 Voluntary Energy Efficiency Program filed on behalf of We Energy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, on to docket 16 and switching utilities now to Wisconsin Power and Light. Wisconsin Power and Light has filed a proposal, a request to continue operating two programs. First is their enhanced low-income weatherization program, very similar to what we just talked about with We Energies. And the second is a very different program. It's their Sense pilot program. So I'll just tee up this a little bit. Similar to what we talked about with the previous utility on the low-income weatherization program, it provides bonus incentives to low-income customers that are participating in Focus's residential trade ally solution. It's providing weatherization services such as insulation and air sealing, as well as efficient heating and cooling devices. The program covers funding to cover all the remaining project costs for the eligible customers, up to $8,000 per project. They also do some health and safety and efficiency measures like gas leak repairs, carbon monoxide detectors, and LED light bulbs. It's eligible for folks that are at the 80% of state median income. We saw some good improvement from last year when we took this up. The program served 30 customers in 2019, 43 in 2020, and then 23 as of the application, which was really mid-year. And this was filed with us so far in 2021. They are having high customer satisfaction with a 9.5 out of 10 rating on their surveys, and they are proposing to extend the program to serve an additional 50 participants in 2022 and requesting $246,000 to cover those costs. The Sense pilot is a unique thing amongst our utilities as far as what I understand. This is a device that can help a customer understand which specific appliances or electric using devices in their home, how much they're using, when they're using it, etc. This will be the fifth phase that they've approached or that they've proposed here. They started with 100 single-family homes in rural areas. They added the next year 100 customers from non-rural areas. And then they did a phase 3 where they added even more homes. And now, I think last year we took up phase 4 and we're looking at phase 5. Again, this is kind of looking out. I think they're in the middle of phase 4, and then this would be for future years. What they've asked to do here is raise the budget and install 500 more of these. And they're looking at specific types of activities, and this is on page 9, that they want to address in phase 5. And it relates first to air conditioners, and can they identify high-use air conditioners or faulty air conditioners and work with them to install more high-efficiency models through the Focus program. integrating device-level energy monitoring and remote smart plug control. They mentioned dehumidifiers as an example. Obviously, an energy-using device that is helping the moisture level in your home, but maybe doesn't need to run when the grid is at its peak. Maybe that can be controlled remotely. Third is electric vehicles, as we know that there are more of those coming. Understanding when they're charging, can they get them to move off peak, et cetera. And then demand savings. I'll be really curious to see your two thoughts on this. As a general matter, I think that this is a really great research project to really understand energy usage in customers' homes, to really understand demand response opportunities and when customers are using devices, how much of that is on peak. I know they're doing some of that analysis between when is MISO's peak and what devices are actually on in that time. I think that type of information is going to be really, really helpful for this utility and the rest of us to understand, you know, what peak are we building for? What devices are on in those times that we can turn off or move their use to later in the day. I think this kind of integrated knowledge is going to be really, really important as we go ahead. And my understanding is the additional 500, the concept there is, yes, they'll pick up some electric vehicle users and some other types of appliances, but really this is going to give them a statistically significant set of data that they can use to look at their entire customer base. So with that said, their Sense pilot budget is just about $1.2 million, about $767,000 for 2022, and then $430,000 for 2023. With that said, I think our decisions are backloaded here, again on page 20. Did either of you have anything else to say about it before we dive in? I want to incorporate thoughts as we go.
I'll just bring my thought. Are all of our decisions right at the end?
Yeah, they're starting on 20, close to the end. Not right at the end. But. We can just go through them?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, didn't hear you. So on page 20, the first one is related to the evaluation plan for the low-income weatherization program, and I am at similar to where we were on the last one. This is something we've asked and has been standard. So I'm at alternative 1 to go ahead and have them submit that evaluation plan.
So this one, I think, because we just had an evaluation come in, I think it probably makes sense to let a little more time pass. So for this one, I was actually at alt 3. I would not have them do that right now. Because I don't think that pancaking them back to back makes sense.
Yeah, I was at alternative 1 here just because of the variation we've had in the last year with usage and persons perhaps needing it. I thought an evaluation plan, even though it would be immediately after the last one, may be useful here for whatever reason. So I was at alternative 1.
Okay, so the Sense pilot then at the bottom of page 20 was also related to evaluation plan. So I was also at alternative 1 on this. I think specifically they're planning to do a lot more and they're planning to try different things. And so having a good understanding between staff and the utility of what they are evaluating is going to be important for the Sense. So I was at alternative 1.
I was as well.
Okay.
So this is where I'll talk about the 10th program. Yeah. I have a really hard time approving this one. And I think you said a key term. This is a good research project with ratepayer dollars. And it's this is a pilot that's never ending. We're going to go into phase 5 and 6. Do I support what they're doing? Yes, it's good information, but it seems really costly. And it seems that it is past the time of getting a cost-benefit analysis of where we've been with this. We have approved to date $1.3 million for the program in the first few phases. They're now asking for another 1.2 for a participation to date of 200 customers. They want to add it up to 700. If you're looking at an average savings of 1.5%, you're saving, they said savings per customer about $100 a year. That's a lot of spending for a customer to save $100 a year. And that worries me that, you know, you could literally hire someone to go house to house and have these people go through their bill and show them what they're using rather than, because people are getting gift cards. These are people that are willing to participate. They're getting a gift card to participate. They opt into this. So I just don't understand the escalating continuation of costs without knowing ahead of time what's the cost benefit, where is this going to end up? Because in the end, if customers are all, and these are the willing customers again, saving 1 to 1.5%. We just validated other results that have been going on around the country. Like, do we need to keep studying that people are going to save about 1%? I don't think so. Is it really going to cut down on building a new peak plant when customers save 1%? I don't think so. So then, you know, so then it just becomes, at what cost are we going to do this? Again, I support it. Maybe they can team up with EPRI or some other organization and use some shareholder dollars to do this. But again, if we're going to now look at $2.5 million to help a small percentage of their overall residential customers save $100 a year, we're asking the other customers really to pay a lot to do that. We have Focus. You know, maybe this should become enrolled in a new program in Focus. I don't know what's coming out of that potential study. So I just have, again, I applaud them for wanting to get this information, but I think enough is enough with spending on this, and we can't continue to move forward with it. So, you know, ultimately, I'll be at no on approving it, but if it's going to be approved, I would, you know, yes, they need to have an evaluation plan, but I would also add a cost-benefit analysis. You know, I just think it's incredibly expensive to help people save 1%.
Sure. When I first read it, I paused at the price tag. But a couple of things come to mind. So I think the first thing is that, yes, the price tag may seem high now, but I think in the long run, the savings that will be achieved, and I looked at it a little differently. I looked at it a little more broad beyond just individual customer savings. I looked at this as a way for us to get meaningful data about this concept of virtual power plants, or the utility being the conductor, and being able to manage and being able to shift, potentially, to shift consumer behavior. And I also looked at it in terms of, we keep saying be innovative and come to us with ideas and help us get the data as we make this transition. And I think at some point it does become incumbent upon us to say, okay, yes, it's worked, we get it, it's been around, but this does offer an opportunity to really get meaningful data and to see potentially what comes next. And so I am okay with it because I firmly believe that in order for us to keep making progress and to understand how to most cost effectively manage this transition, that this type of data is necessary. And this type of data can then lead to the next offering, which can lead to the next offering, which, you're right, I mean, the actual pieces of equipment themselves, can they in and of themselves offset the need for a new peaker plant? Probably not right now, but we won't know how to get there unless we have this data. So that I looked at it as sort of a holistic approach in that at the end of the day, it will end up saving all customers money, because it's allowing the utility to look at that new role of utility as the conductor, as it's been referred to. So those were kind of my thoughts. But I do agree that a cost-benefit analysis would be absolutely required as part of the evaluation.
Yeah, I'll join you on including a cost-benefit analysis, and I think, you know, the key for me is to look at energy savings and demand savings. As you said, Commissioner Nowak, if you're saving 1% or 1.5%, that over a year, that's 1%. But if that savings is happening on peak, you know, that could be significant, you know, and we know what the cost of new capacity is. We have applications in front of us, and MISO has a cone value and that. So, you know, to me, it'd be looking at cost effectiveness on the demand saving side and the energy saving side.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add, you know, again, these are people that are being induced, right, they're willing, they have an interest in their bill. Again, I'm still convinced most of the population just pays it because they have 800 other things going on in their life. But these are people that have an interest and they're getting a gift card to participate. What are we going to, what's the control group? What are we going to do when this expands? Are we going to still continue to are we going to have to induce that way? So those are just my concerns. And also in this phase 5, the other thing that was raised in here, and I don't understand what the result is here, but they want to put these sensors on HVAC, energy home usage at home, which would include notifying of system faults as a precursor to system failure. And I didn't know if that was something that, you know, maybe it's all in the same sensor, but, you know, isn't this something that your local HVAC, are we competing with the private sector in this this is a service, really, then, in a way? I don't know. I mean, you know, I don't know that that's something, you know, you have your service guy come out, because these are just precursors to failure. Isn't that what you have your home checks for? I'm a little concerned that this is getting into a zone where a regulated utility shouldn't go with that. So I don't think there was enough, there's a lack of information about that for me too, is another reason to not support it.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think we're going back to the days of the utilities selling refrigerators and microwaves. I mean, just anecdotally, I can tell you that my next door neighbor, his air conditioning unit was making a funky sound for about 3 months, and I finally told him, your air conditioner is making a funky sound, and he called his service tech, and sure enough, it had failed. And I wonder how much were they cranking down the temperature to try to get it to work, and if he had a sensor on there, they probably could have saved a couple months of overuse. So I can respect your concern, but I didn't view this in the same way as sort of going back to the days of the utility as the appliance provider.
Yeah, I didn't either, and I think just the history from my background on the energy efficiency side is when something breaks, you fix it. Your primary concern is fixing and cost and not efficiency. And so if there's a way to identify it up front and talk to them about the rebates available and the overall cost benefit of doing a higher efficiency and how much you'll save over time, that whole conversation can play out in a way that it just can't when you're at, it's 95 degrees and you don't have air conditioning or vice versa on the cooling side. So I'm not familiar with this capability, but I think that it's a valid question that if this technology can detect that, how can we feed it into focus? I think that's a good question that they should evaluate themselves on. Okay.
I just want to confirm that you were all at modifying the alternative one, that the evaluation plan would then also include a cost-benefit analysis?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
So we are then on Page 22 for the Sense pilot coordination with focus on energy, and I, again, would support a coordination plan with focus, especially as we go into quad planning and continuing to evolve focus on energy and look at how we can get the most cost-effective savings. This type of data is something focus can't get by themselves because they don't touch the customer like they don't have that relationship at the meter level data with the customer. So I thought that would be excellent and help focus and help the utility. So I was at alternative 1.
Yeah, I agree. And just for the reasons that we discussed, for me, this is different than the NFP coordination. This has the potential to maybe turn into an additional focus offering. So I think it's really important that they're coordinating with focus. So I was also at alt 1.
Yeah, and if it's going to go forward, yes.
Okay. Okay, so then 2 more items then. First, on the enhanced low-income weatherization program, I'm approving the program as it's been designed. I would include the evaluation. I can't remember. Okay, I guess Commissioner Nowak and I did approve that. So that would be my alternative 2. Approve it as is, but with the evaluation plan and no other modifications.
This is for...
The weatherization program at the bottom of page 22.
Oh, right, okay, and I wouldn't have them.
She would approve the program. I would approve the program. Yep.
And Commissioner Nowak?
Yeah, no, I'm with L2.
Same spot? Okay. And then on the Sense pilot, I was prepared to approve this. I was at alternative 2 with the modifications being the coordination plan and the evaluation plan as well as what we discussed, cost benefit.
And I was at that same place as well.
And I'm at alternative 3.
Okay.
Just one motion, Cindy. Okay. Docket 6680 EE 2022, I move that we approve as modified the request to implement the 2022 voluntary energy efficiency programs filed on behalf of Wisconsin Power and Light Company, consistent with our discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And finally, agenda item 17 is docket 6690 EE 2022, and this is Wisconsin Public Service proposal to continue operating their residential assistance program as a voluntary energy efficiency program. This is very similar to the Wisconsin Electric and Wisconsin Gas We Energies program. They would install measures as needed, including attic and wall insulation, air sealing, replacement of furnaces, boilers, and water heaters, as well as other measures that can improve efficiency, comfort, and safety, as well as LED light bulbs in these homes. Similarly, they would like to expand as a pilot measure to these additional, expand the criteria for eligibility to include the owner-occupied structures with 4 or more units, non-owner-occupied 2 to 4 unit, multifamily, and 6 to 12 units, and then nonprofit organizations as a pilot. I'm going to be in the same spots that I was on the We Energies program. I do support the program. And as far as our first decision item, which is on page 10, is the evaluation of the pilot program. I was at alternative 2, which would be to include a process evaluation to be filed by June 1 of 2024. Chair?
Yep, consistent with my position for the We Energies one. I was also at alt 2.
Okay.
Yep, this is identical.
Yep. And then I was at approving the program, that's alternative 1, and then approving the pilot with the evaluation, that was my alternative 2, but with no other modifications.
Yep.
Chair?
I was in the same spot.
Agree.
Okay.
For docket 6690 EE 2022, I move that we approve the request to implement the 2022 voluntary energy efficiency programs filed on behalf of Wisconsin Public Service Corporation, consistent with our discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that concludes our official business for today. Our next open meeting is scheduled for Thursday, September 23rd, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. May we have a motion to adjourn?
And adjourn September 23rd, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everyone.